It's 8 p.m. on Citi TV. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu sitting in tonight for Duke Mensa Upoko. It's a day after so many NDC members of parliament saw their level, actually their smoothness level. And the new ones actually have been blessed with the opportunity to represent the party in various constituencies across the country. Would they be winning or not? Because it's one thing winning your candidature and being a torchbearer for the constituency or a party rep for the constituency. It's another thing winning the election proper. So here on press conference, we'll review the issue from the journalist perspective, the journalists who went to cover the various NDC primaries. And here on 97.36 FM Citi TV, our hashtag was NDC Decide. So if you covered that election, or if you watched that election and you want to know what happened behind the scenes, perhaps this is the show you should watch, because press conference is a group of journalists who come and do the discussion for you. So that's one story we're treating for you on press conference. Also, we'll talk about the microfinance loans sector. There's been a cleanup, a major cleanup. But there are reactions coming through. Dr. Papakwesi Ndum, know him, Putusi People's Party, or PPP, Progressive People's Party, has been speaking this week. He's not very happy. We'll be touching base with that particular subject. And then, also on our show tonight, we'll be talking about that very awkward situation where a man who has been appointed to be in charge of making sure that procurement doesn't go bad has been caught on camera in some way, somehow, being bad himself with procurement. How do you fix that mess? This is press conference. Stay with us. You're welcome back to press conference on Citi TV. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. Joining me for tonight's discussion, I have from starfmonline.com, Kwame Danso Acheampong. Kwame, you're welcome.
Thank you.
How is the week been? Ending, rather. How is the week ending?
Well, it's been very eventful. If you're a journalist, you know that it's been ups and downs. The shock, the surprises, and if you like, the things you did not expect to happen. Some of the weird things that happened in the course of the week. And yesterday we had to round it up, and very tiresome as well. So we live by the day. We are great.
So you have to do what you have to do. Sixtus Dong Ullo is with Citi FM's producer of Eyewitness News, and of course this show as well. Sixtus, how is the week ending?
Eventful. I'll borrow that word. Okay. I think it's been packed. It's been crazy for some members of the NDC, particularly those who put themselves out for election. It's been, all in all, it's been great. At least we didn't see any shootouts. So,
Larry Allen's Dogbe is the boss at the Herald newspaper. Larry, welcome to press conference.
Thank you very much, Umaru.
Big deal this week.
Sure, it has been, and also to borrow the same word.
Oh, now I have to sue you all for borrowing.
But I'll add political, you know. So it's been politically eventful, if you ask me. I mean, monitoring the radio stations and then, you know, the media scene in general before the, you know, the contest itself. So it's been eventful.
I see. So we'll break it down for you here on press conference. Now, one constituency which has been keenly watched and contested is the one from Ningo Prampram, or the one called Ningo Prampram in the Greater Accra region. Samonate George, he calls himself Jata. He replaced E.T. Mensah, and he almost got replaced this weekend because Michael Kwete was matching him boot for boot. The results, 400 for his competitor, 407 for him, 2 rejected, which means Sam George continues to represent the NDC, at least for now, in Ningo Prampram, just by 7 votes. Listen to what he had to say, or watch what he had to say afterwards.
I want to use this opportunity to say a very big thank you to Almighty God. I want to say a very big thank you to my constituency executives. I want to say a very big thank you to all the branch executives. I want to say a very big thank you to my brother, Michael Tete Kwete. I want to say this is the first in a series of victories. I want to say a very big thank you to my parents who've stood by me through this, and to my lovely wife who's had to bear a lot because of this contest. But for me, this is just the beginning. I extend a hand of fellowship, and you've seen me exhibit it here, to my brother Michael. Together, the focus is to increase the margin of victory between myself and whoever the NPP will elect next month to 20,000 votes, a margin of 20,000 votes. The vision is to kick out the incompetent Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government and bring John Dramani Mahama to the Flagstaff House on the 7th of January 2021. That's all that matters to me, and that's my next focus. I'm grateful to everybody who's helped me on this contest. Thanks to Michael for a very keenly contested contest. But for me, the focus remains kicking out this corrupt, incompetent Nana Addo government from the Flagstaff House. Enough of the 1D, 1F, 1 day, 1 fraud. Enough of all of that. We need a decent government, a government of people who are willing to work and serve this country. And that's what I'm willing to work for, and I know my brother Michael will join me. Well, thank you very much, and subsequently we'll engage you. Thank you.
So that's Sam George there, won by a hair's breadth, 7 votes. That's huge. 809 people showed up to vote. 400 voted for his opponent. 400 voted for him, 2 rejected. And then some 7 others decided, you know what, let's just let him continue. And they gave it to him. But the guy who gave him a run for his money is Michael Kwete. Watch what he had to say afterwards.
My support base to Honorable Sam George so as to increase the number of votes we've been getting in Ngo Prampram. I am expressing my unflinching support to him and the party. That is all I have for now.
So I was in the Ngo Prampram constituency yesterday. Over 100 police officers and military officers in plainclothes uniform and those with uniform. Soldiers were having all manner of weapons. Policemen were carrying all manner of weapons. There were over a dozen police pickup trucks and saloon cars, and also military pickups as well. It was almost like a training ground for the security people, including the DCE, of course. An MPP DCE was on the grounds. And the information from the divisional commanders that they picked up intelligence that there were going to be some clashes. And so it's almost like that constituency was of an interest. But several other constituencies had their elections. So new people will be representing the NDC in various constituencies. We heard of Felix Kwachiofosu, former Deputy Communications Minister. Kofi Adams, a former national organizer, is going to represent the NDC in the Buem, unless, of course, he's not voted in 2020. We have Benita Sena Okitidua losing in Lejokuku. Lejokuku has proven to be a constituency that you can never trust as a member of parliament or a parliamentary candidate, and so on and so forth. Let me bring in my guest now. Kwame Danso Acheampong, you were on radio the whole of last night during the discussions, listening to your reporters coming through. Which ones shocked you? Which ones excited you, the reports coming through?
Well, aside the, if you like, the positive tension that existed in Ngo Prampram, I think the results between, what's his name, John Dumelo, and his contender, for me was quite surprising, because hitherto the night or the day we had been made to believe that the woman was conducting some submarine campaign and then she was going to come up with some shocker on the day.
What is submarine campaign?
You know that, like the underground kind of campaign where nobody really knows what you're doing, but you are firm on the ground. So we had assumed that it was going to be very competitive. And so you do recall that Poster Benefsen had said that he would be surprised if John won that seat. So it built some level of anticipation, some level of competition that you were expecting to happen on the night. But, you know, as the day wore on and things began to unfold, it became apparent that it was no contest at all. In fact, it was a thrashing. If you look at the number of votes that John garnered compared to what his competitor had, you notice that it was not a competition at all. So that was one of the results that really made me rethink what I had expected from the way the campaign had been conducted. Again, I think the defeat of Ras Mubarak, was not expected, especially when you look at the level of articulation, the robust manner in which he perused documents in Parliament. A few of the issues that have become very contentious in Parliament, he has been in the thick of affairs. He's been talking, he's been granting interviews. I recall his position on the U.S. relationship with Syria and a few of those, internationally inclined stories. And you notice that he's somebody who gives a certain sphere of seriousness and stuff like that. So when he lost the seat, for me, it made me aware that our measuring can, what we in the media or those of us in Accra, measure as a competitive MP or somebody who is delivering on the deliverables is substantially different from what the people outside Accra think of.
So you may see somebody on TV, on radio, and even engaging in the media in Accra, and you think that this guy is solid, everybody should like him. But when you go to the grounds, his story is different, and the acceptability is often a problem. The same case can be applied to Sam Nete George Jata. If you look at the way Sam has suddenly become, so to speak, a national figure, because he's almost into every matter that's happening in
he
Ghana.
received a plus in a slap in Ayawa.
Exactly, and that was a very major issue that puts attention on you. But for Sam to go into such a contest, to be closely contested in that manner, I wasn't expecting it. Look, Sam, is equally a loser, so to speak, like his contender.
You think he lost last night?
I think it was his defeat. Because he's the incumbent. Look, if you look at when they were using the electoral college system between him and E.T. Mensah, the difference was almost 2,000. Okay? But for you to come into a delegate system and to beat your opponent for 7 votes, 7. Look, because of the delegate system that we run right now, it's, if you like, susceptible to corruption and stuff like that. Because if you have 10 people coming, it's easy for me to bribe my way through. If we're using a bigger number, you could imagine that the results could have been different. And in our system, between 12 a.m. and 5 or 7 when the polls would have begun, a lot of things can happen.
Yep.
So for
even
me,
during the polls.
Even during the polls. A place like Acheampong South, we were told that somebody was campaigning in queue. So for me, it is not Michael's defeat. It's Sam's defeat. If you're a member of parliament, you beat such a colossus to get the seat, and then you get there just one term. Just one term when you are known to be gaining prominence in the national space, only to be, challenged like this. For me, he should be thinking again.
Okay.
He should be thinking again.
Sixtus, which ones are your takeaways from yesterday night?
I will also go for Sam George, 1. I will go for the Ayawa West Wogon, Dumelo, number 2. And I will add Wa West, Yelechre.
Joseph is gone.
He's gone.
But how has he been? How long has he been?
Since 2004.
You think he should have left on his own?
He should have left on his own. In fact, he shouldn't have waited up to this point. And that's the sad part. He's been there. He's the first member of parliament for the area when the constituency was created in 2004, thereabout. So he got into parliament. And when you look at his resume, when you look at the caliber of material he is, even on the floor of parliament, when they are deliberating on policy, when they are discussing legislation, you consider his input, and you see that this is somebody he knows his stuff. He knows what he's made of, and he shouldn't have waited up to this particular point. But what happened to him? Now, it looks as if the relationship of members of parliament with their constituents, anytime it comes up in a poll or in the media for discussion, a lot of them are quick to brush it aside. But it is the one thing that is, slowing a lot of them down, and in fact, kicking a lot of them out of the house. Now, Yelechre concentrated so much at the national level. What was the level of interaction with his constituents? Is a question that has been debated on social media at the constituency level. People are looking at the level of development in his constituency, for instance. If you are the first member of parliament and you have all the relevant network that you need to draw development to your constituency, you've served right from under PNDC through NDC, Rawlings, Mills, Mahama, Minister for Health, local government. So with all of this, no one expects that you walk into a constituency that such a person presides over and you see dusty roads. And you get there and school children don't have school facilities to study in. They don't have the building blocks. They don't have the materials. They don't have anything.
But that would be unfair.
What is the problem?
But that would be unfair to him. Alban Bagbin, longest serving MPs. If you go to Nadoli Kaleo, similar challenges.
At least he has a stretch of tarred road running through his constituency. And to be fair, you cannot compare the level of development in Bagbin's constituency to Yelechre's constituency.
So Wa West is part of the Grand Wa, isn't it?
It is.
So how is it that Wa West is poorer than Bagbin's place, which is farther?
Maybe it is a question we have to ask Yelechre and the successive DCEs that have gone through the area. You see, the question has always been there. So what happens to your own share of the common fund? What happens to the constituency common fund, the district common fund, the share of the common fund? What happens to all of those facilities? And how come the people, school children, are still not able to to have the best of the facilities? You can't even have telecommunication services in there.
Is Wa West that remote from Wa?
It is that remote from Wa.
And this is not geography. This is just in terms of development.
In terms
so
of
it is
development.
closer to Wa, but it's still
so
poor.
the people, I think, got fed up. The people, I think, told themselves that, look, we could have better, but who do we replace him with? And that has always been the question.
So who have they put there now?
Peter, the police superintendent, who before he went into limelight politics, was executive secretary to
the IGP's
executive.
Oh, he's won.
He's won. He's won.
Oh, I think his retirement has worked for him.
He calculated very well. Resignation. He resigned from the service to contest the seat. And when you look at him, his interaction with people, a couple of videos have trended the social media platform over the months concerning him, his human relations, his view about things. And when you go to a lot of the constituencies, the rural constituencies, it's really nothing they need from you, just for you to give them the listening ear. And if you are that kind of a person, then you have an advantage. So I think that in as much as a lot of the young people who would want to get into politics would admire somebody like Yelechre, they would also be disappointed by the fact that he had to be pushed out. Imagine Bagbin being pushed out. Just imagine.
In the case of the police officer and the defeat of Yelechre, look, I'm thinking that it may not necessarily be the underperformance of Yelechre. You know, this whole euphoria about the police officer, the executive secretary to the IGP, having resigned and, you know, coming to your seat. So the whole media attention, the hype around the man, it gave him some extra value than he actually brought to the table. Okay, I have not worked with him before, but the fact that for a couple of weeks, all the media discussed was the executive secretary. For you to have left that post, I am thinking that the people of the place decided to reward that risk, okay? Because until any of them is able to prove that, you know, Yelechre had, you know, or has misused his common fund, or he was supposed to do this, and I haven't heard any peculiar, you know, case against him. It could be that the place is not very well developed, but I'm thinking that the man may have cashed in exactly on the fact that he had this.
But ask yourself,
was the number significant?
It is close to 200. Close to 200. And ask yourself, you are executive secretary to the IGP, and so what to the people? What does that mean to them? Really nothing. So he may have promised something that they don't see in Yelechre.
Okay. Maybe. Larry, I haven't heard from you.
Yeah, sure.
Which ones jumped out to you?
I think that, first of all, Dumelo's victory was overwhelming.
Was he expected?
Sure.
He's not a politician. I mean, he hasn't been.
Dumelo has been on the political platform for quite some time.
2012, since GM.
No, 2012 and then 2016 and so on. He's been around. He's been campaigning and so on. And looking at the father, he wanted to go to the Volta region, first of all. Then later on changed his mind after weighing his, you know, options and came to a place like that. You thought that even if he was going to win, it wouldn't be that massive. I mean, I have lived in that constituency. That is where I actually vote and so on. And so I sort of know a little dynamics of, you know, the dynamics of that constituency. So to have won such, you know, an overwhelming, you know, number of votes shocked me. Now, also Oyelita, I gave her a lot of, you know, I thought that Oye is a very good material, solid person. She knows, you know, what she's about. And I thought Oye was going to.
For Adenta?
Yes, I thought Oye was going to make it.
Why do you think Mohamed Ramadan would have lost? Or should have lost?
I think that a lot was expected of him. Okay?
In the last election?
In the last election. A lot was expected of him in the last election, but he couldn't make it. Why he didn't, I don't know. But I think that the results of that particular, contest between him and then Oye show that the party executives in the constituency recognize his contribution, recognize the fact that he had been around for some time. Therefore, he was the right person to be voted for. He is known more than Oye. Oye initially, I think she wanted to go to Lojokuku or so, and then later on,
she was brought for choice.
Exactly. So, I mean, there were so many constituencies, that were thrown around her. So you don't know really which one she was for until she decided that, okay, she wanted to go for this particular one. However, I thought that she was going to go through because she is a very good material minister, and then yeah.
So we have seen those who are coming, and we also know when we come back we'll talk about those who have failed to come, those who are incumbent MPs who lost, and those who were prominent. In my constituency, Sodoku, Michael Kwesa White lost again, terribly. We'll discuss that and more. This is Press Conference. The hashtag is Press Conference on social media. Send us a comment. We'll be back with more. You're welcome back to Press Conference on Citi TV. I am Umaru Sanda Amadu. Tonight, my guest, Kwame Danso Acheampong, is with StarFMOnline.com. Sixtus Dong Ullo is with Citi FM and Citi TV. And Larry Alans Dogbe is editor of the Herald newspaper. So we've been discussing the fallout from the NDC primaries yesterday. Joseph Yilitre lost the Wa West seat. Well, the representation of that, maybe if he wants to go to independent, he may win or not. Emmanuel Okanlai has lost as the Amasaman NDC rep. Daniel Kwesi Esiama has lost as the Buem rep. He's lost that to Kofi Adams. Matthias Kwame Nto has lost the Awin seat, also as a rep for the NDC. Amega Etego from the Chana Paga constituency in the Upper East has lost the representation to be on the ticket of the NDC. Ras Mubarak left Ablekuma North after a resounding defeat, ran away to Kumbungu, became an MP one term, and he's lost the representation. At least he will not represent NDC for the next 4 years. Francis Dakura has lost Jirapa in the Upper West, and Eric Osewusu from Plains South. Aziz Abdo Muniru for the Akan constituency in the Oti region has lost, and Benita Sena Okitidua, Lejokuku, former member of parliament, former deputy minister, has lost. The ones who have lost and failed to come in, so Ras Mubarak, the key names that come out, what are your takeaways, your impressions of what should they have done that they didn't do, and what should they be doing now, those who have won, to ensure they remain there?
Sanda, in the particular case of Ras Mubarak, I know it is difficult to accept defeat under this condition, especially when it is his first term, and the fact that you have to pay a filing fee of 25,000, non-refundable. And again, we all do know how heavy and how expensive it is to run campaigns in Ghana, especially in the system that we have, put around our necks. So for a young man to go in, having enjoyed, the national attention, having enjoyed the popularity and all that, and hitting the...
Having ridden a bicycle.
Exactly, yeah, all the things that he has brought to us in that space, and the drama around all. And then suddenly, within a twinkle of an eye, you are going back to be nobody, you understand. So it's difficult, because I imagine the amount of money he has spent on this election. I am told some of the people who went into this polls are saying that the night before the election, sometimes you need to camp some delegates and then give a slot. If it's 1,000, it's 1,000 for everybody. So if you are having 30 people going into to vote for you, going to the election, if you are lucky enough and smart enough to camp like 16 of them, you know that at least this conk 16 out of that, even if I get first past the post, so then I win.
But delegates can mess you up.
Exactly.
You can camp them and they'll go and vote against you and insult you on their way home.
Like I'm told somebody's taking back his television set.
Sixtus, those who have lost, so you've talked about Joseph Yilitre for Wa West. Which other ones stand out for you, and what should they have done right that they didn't do right?
May I just round up with?
Okay.
Look, I was making reference to some of the comments he made after he lost the polls, coming out to allege that the man who beat you is a fraud, and that the BNI should invest. I think that's a big deal. That's a big deal. Yes. I'm disappointed in him, because you see, this is an internal contest. You are giving a bigger punch to your opponent. Now, if they are going into the bigger contest itself, if the opponent comes out to say this competitor is a fraudster, he's a money launderer. What then do you convince the other people who are going to elect to come back for?
The good thing is that he says he's reported that officially to the BNI. So what we would do as journalists would be to follow up with the BNI and see what evidence he backs his allegations with. And then maybe when the findings of the BNI come out, then again, we get to see if there was any truth.
So since when did he notice that?
Since when did he notice that? He said, we spoke to him yesterday, and he said he lodged the complaint 3 days ago. So he had observed it. He monitored the flow of cash to delegates, and he suspected that, no, this couldn't have been any legitimate earnings that the opponent is dispensing. But I think that, to be fair to him, the commentary I have heard and read following his defeat, it also shows that he hasn't been so good with the constituency, especially the executives. He hasn't really been there for them since he got the nod to represent them in 2016. And maybe it also contributed. All of these things only come out after events like this. Okay. So we can never really...
Larry, usually when parties go into elections, internal level, and key people lose, they tend to go independent, and that may affect the party in one way or the other. Do you see any of the constituencies turning up in such a manner for the NDC?
I doubt. But talking about Ras Mubarak, you remember Ras Mubarak for Ablekuma South?
North,
when he lost. I mean, several things were thrown in the air and so on. I thought that he learned something out of that. Again, it's also, I mean, there's this debate as to whether or not there's any central command within the NDC as a party. So very often you have people, immediately there's an event or a contest or something, you get them throwing all manner of things into the public domain, and that goes to affect them eventually. Okay, and like you rightly pointed out, you don't go into a contest like that. Your party had vetted this guy, and obviously if he was a fraudster, it should have come up.
Exactly.
If he was a criminal, it would have come up.
And he won anyway.
And he won anyway.
And criminalizing fraud doesn't have anything to do with elections campaign.
You get it. So, I mean, again, he said he's reported it to the BNI. Can you go and question the BNI? Maybe if you reported it to the police, you can call, the police PRO and find out, indeed, has this thing...
I mean, even the timing is important. You get to realize that he is a money launderer 3 days to a
exactly.
between you and him.
Do you get it? So, it really doesn't... add up, if you ask me. Having said so, whether or not people will go independent, I don't see it.
Okay.
But there is something about, Ningo Pram, which I think that NDC as a party would have to take notice of. That whole, constituency is divided. It's divided between the Pram lines and then, between the Ningo lines. E.T. Mensah is still a key figure in that, in that constituency.
He's a pastor now, right?
You know what? Listen, the exit and entry strategies of NDC has always been bad. You don't want to take a guy like that out of parliament and you don't talk to him. E.T. feels that he was the one who brought in Sam George. Okay? He's hurt. Sam George says he's made several attempts to talk to him. The man wouldn't also listen. I mean, we all, we have parents, we have fathers, let me put it that way. I mean, at a point in time, you just have to let it go. You just have to let it go. Bagbin didn't go. And like you said, Yeletra, if he had learned something, he wouldn't have gone into that contest again. Who is within? And the party, NDC tells you that, oh, you know what, they have a committee that is supposed to be in charge of reconciliation and all that. What is... what are they reconciling? To what extent have they gone with Sam George? To what extent have they gone with E.T.? So that everybody will be on board. If they don't take it, they are going to lose that, that constituency because of the division. Sam George scraping through with 7 votes. It should communicate something to the party. Yeah, to the NDC if they are minded by whatever thing they want to get.
Let me bring some of the reactions that are coming through on our various social media platforms. The NDC's delegates are gradually coming home. They rejected tribal bigots like Prince Derek J, the dishonest... Hey, Using many words now. This is Samuel Bryan, but I've been writing.
I saw that.
I'm not able to continue reading his messages.
He was in Egypt, eh?
I don't know. Okay, let me bring a few more messages that are coming through on our social media platforms. Sam George is such a fine parliamentary material to exit parliament. NDC would have been worse for it. But I think he should tame his hawkish disposition, and his near loss provides the appropriate psychological shock. This Koshi Badohu Ayivo, writing from Denu. Ras Mubarak loss is never news. He lost the primary since 2018. He has been unfriendly to his constituents since he went to parliament. His utterances towards his constituents is as if they forced to send him to parliament. This is Abdul Rauf sending this comment from Mobila. Bobby from WA says, actually, the vote difference is between Yiletre and Peter Tobu. The vote difference between Yiletre and Peter Tobu is more than 200. Yiletre is 317, Peter Tobu is 755. It looks like what happened to Dr. Michael Kwasa-White, despite the Banku that he went to stay. Prince Henry Kovrida says, I'm highly disappointed and disheartened in Honorable Ras Mubarak's comments. You can also send your views across. The WhatsApp number is 055-058-5832. You can also send me a tweet. Use the hashtag press conference. Let's move to our next story now. The Public Procurement Authority, the boss there, has been caught in a web. Watch this report.
An investigation by investigative journalist Manasseh Azuri Awuni, dubbed Contracts for Sale, has revealed that the Chief Executive Officer of the Public Procurement Authority, Ejenim Boating Eje, may have been engaged in a conflict of interest situation and possible corrupt practices. This is because Mr. Eje, who is a director and a shareholder of Talent Discovery Limited, a company that was set up in 2017 after his appointment as PPA CEO, has won a number of government contracts through restrictive tendering. The main aim of the company is not to execute these contracts, but sell the contracts they have secured through unfair means to prospective buyers or contractors. The contracts are sold to the highest bidders with ready cash. This illegality means that the execution of government contracts delay unnecessarily. It is also a recipe for shoddy works. At the time Manasseh was filing this report, Talent Discovery Limited had been shortlisted for restrictive tendering by the Bank of Ghana for the supply and installation of air purifiers. The company has also been shortlisted by the Roads and Highways Ministry for 3 road contracts, and the evaluation is currently ongoing. The PPA board has confirmed that TDL was shortlisted by the Ministry of Inner Cities and Zongo Development for a contract in 2018. The board also confirmed TDL was brought to the PPA on 14 occasions for restrictive tendering approvals. Such contracts are approved by the PPA, of which Ejenim Boating Eje is the CEO. Awuni confronted the PPA CEO Ejenim Boating Eje, asking him if he had knowledge about the company called Talent Discovery Limited. Mr. Eje responded in the affirmative and said it belonged to his cousin, but failed to disclose who this said cousin was. When further pushed, he changed the narrative and said it belonged to his brother-in-law.
So Mr. Eje has since been suspended by the president. He has been referred to the office of the special prosecutor for action, as well as the Commission for Human Rights and Administrative Justice. Larry, is that not what the president should have ideally done, and he has done right, correct?
First of all, good piece of journalism, but it's nothing new.
Really?
Yeah, it's nothing new.
How?
You know, we follow these things all the time, and we dig up documents. You dig up, first of all, you land, somebody tells you about it, then you ask for documentation, you get it if there is. If there is none, then you have to go in, in search of those documents. Having gotten it, you then confront the person with whatever you have. The only new thing about this is the fact that there was a camera before him, and he was speaking to the camera. Beyond that, PDS, these same things were put before this guy, what's his name? Ejapa Mesa. The fact that he's a secretary of one, a company, one of the companies in there, and he fumbled. The fact that he's a director of one of those companies, the fact that he's the lawyer that registered the company, the fact that his address was used, his law firm's address was used, to register that company. Meanwhile, he tells you that, he registered a company for Philip Ayesu. Sorry, he registered a company for David Asari. Mm-hmm. Only for you to discover in that document, the company registration document, that it was rather Philip Ayesu who is the owner of that company, because Philip Ayesu holds 700,000 shares and David Asari controls 300,000 shares. Meanwhile, instead of Philip Ayesu having his private, private address somewhere around the Flair Road, 23rd Switchback Road, it is rather the law firm, the private law firm of Ejapa Mesa, which was used in this transaction. And the same Ejapa Mesa sat in Parliament as the MP for Sekondi to approve of a deal that he was interested in.
Bring it back to PPA for me,
no,
please.
The conflict of interest, I'm just trying to do that. The conflict of interest is just, overwhelming. And so I'm just saying that this is not new anyway. But the only new thing is the camera that was there, for which reason maybe Ghanaians love video. Now,
is it also new that the president has immediately ordered his suspension?
The president had no choice, because then people, he had no choice, because the anger was just boiling.
In the case of Anas and Charles Bissiou, he was not suspended. He's still a presidential staffer.
Yes, maybe in that case people are not as angry as as this particular one.
In Charles Bissiou's case, we saw notes exchanging money.
Yes, but in this case, again, I mean, I watched the video and then monitored the commentary, and it was just, people were just boiling up. Maybe because it also coincided with the PDS, so then the anger was just becoming, it was just becoming too much. And like somebody said, one day, one scandal. Yeah, it's becoming too much. Now, having said that, I think that the story goes beyond the PPA boss to the ministers.
Really?
Yes.
Which of the ministers?
Ministers and then the agency heads.
Those who awarded the contracts to this company.
Because find out, how are tenders done? The ministry would have advertised, or the agency would have advertised for bids and so on, and insisted that they were doing restrictive tender. And so the ministry would have vetted everything and said that, you know what, we have selected these 3 companies for you to award them the contract on restrictive tender. So if you had a situation where the PPA boss's company made that list, you have to question it.
But he said he told the board.
It is not enough for him to say that he told the board. But then getting how many contracts? 14 contracts out of the blue, one company. And even a kid will be shocked as to, listen, what is happening here?
Established just 2 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, what is,
And they don't even physically execute the
precisely,
project. They hand it over to another third party.
And so then the ministries and then the agencies, have they find out what is the timeline on the execution of those contracts? Let's find out. Were they executed? What reports have they gotten, from the company that won on restrictive tender? And by this, I'm saying the PPA boss's company. They should be questioning that. And these ministers and agencies should be answering questions.
Is the suspension enough?
It's not enough.
What should have happened to him?
Listen, I think the outright dismissal should have been the case.
Arrest?
Dismiss? Well, you can't arrest. You dismiss, you investigate further, and then, you prosecute. And like I'm asking, what was the timeline on those contracts? Okay. And you know what? This is not the only restrictive tender that is happening. The whole government is saddled with restrictive tenders. Almost every procurement contract in government is going through restrictive tender. Why is it possible? These are questions that we need to be asking.
There are people who are asking for the Minister for Procurement to be answering questions. You think it's far-fetched?
Are you sure she's a minister? I think she's only a Minister of Procurement on paper.
No. She was vetted and approved by Parliament.
I'm saying that she's just, because she tells you that, listen, she only has a supervisory, whatever. And that even the Procurement Authority is under the Minister of Finance. It is not under her. So what is the arrangement? What is her job description? She just sits there.
Okay. Sixtus.
And I'm told that those of us in Parliament, you should find out whether
you're not an MP. You mean those of
as parliamentary reporters. So that's not you come on. Stop blaming me.
You don't have a constituency. I just wanted to be sure.
I think she's still, Adjoa Safo is still the deputy.
She's deputy majority
leader,
but she's minister for
and by extension, you can say that, deputy minister of parliamentary affairs.
Yes.
There's
no such portfolio.
There's no such portfolio. But then why is she, if she's a procurement minister?
I understand where it's coming from.
If she is not, there's no extension in this case.
I'm not saying that is the situation, but the way he's thinking, I can appreciate the way, the context within which he's thinking. That's
freedom of thought.
So what's your thought? Your thought is that what?
My thought is, and I'm telling you that ministry doesn't exist.
Okay.
It only exists on
Ministry of Procurement.
It only exists on paper.
I think they have a physical space, a physical ministry.
Because if it existed, the president would have moved the procurement authority to that particular ministry.
No, that would not be fair. It's like saying that the Ministry of Environment should have the Environmental Protection Agency housing it. I mean, I'm not sure it works that way.
So what is a job description?
Direction. That's what ministries do.
Policy direction.
Sixtus.
So then we should blame the Minister for Finance then.
We should
blame the Minister for Finance then. Hello?
Somebody asked me a question I couldn't answer. And Larry's comment brought the question back to mind. The person says, why is it that when we arrest a goat thief, we put the person in what they call remand, whilst the person undergo the prosecution? But when we get a big man in society caught in one scandal or the other,
huge scandal,
we say, oh, we cannot arrest. We have to wait till the person is investigated and maybe convicted before we. What's the difference?
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal.
Sanda, you see, this I want to toe the line Larry told by saying that this may just have revealed to us a tip of the iceberg, what goes on in the public institutions. And because we cannot stand on any authority save what we have seen now, we only have to be cautious in presenting that statement. But we can also say to some level of certainty that this happens. I'm not sure it is just the PPA and the company. What's the company's name?
Talent,
TDL. I'm not sure TDL is the only company caught in this. Can we begin to go beyond TDL to see which other companies are involved in similar deals? It's sad.
Okay.
It's too heartbreaking.
Kwame, moving it forward.
But
so
the suspension for me is not enough.
It's not enough.
The suspension is not enough. The referral to the special prosecutor in Siraj, those are not enough.
Why?
Can we just, couldn't the president have just straight away gone to say, I'm handing you over? We've seen the president do a similar thing under Kwesi Nyantakyi. We heard the news.
But that involved him, so he reported him.
This doesn't involve him. Is he not supposed to be protecting the public purse, the public interest?
You are a law student. You know that proving what is innocent until proven guilty.
You are going back to the premise of my discussion. I started by saying that when we get the goat thief, the rules seem to be different from when we get some other person higher in society.
So you wanted him to report it to the CID?
Straight away.
You want the CID to clear him later, then you come and complain, like they cleared Charles Bishop. Kwame Danso Acheampong.
I am minded to the fact that the president cannot just wake up and say I'm dismissing it. He has to go through the board. Okay, the board has to be involved and stuff like that before he could be dismissed. That's for the argument of people
and
who are
can we say the board is innocent in
I'm
this?
coming there. See, Omar, it is important that all of us cut the hypocrisy. Anybody who is so shocked or overly shocked at what's happening or the uncoverings at PPA is probably not living in Ghana. We are over the years. It's systemic. It's not just restricted to this particular administration. It's systemic that we are all intimately aware of these practices within our public sector. The fact that if somebody, a ministry or agency has to give a contract, often you find the head of the agency alerting some family member, some relative, go and form a company and come in. We have seen all those things happening. And in fact, we have heard these contract issues. We have heard contractors who say, I've won a contract here, but I'm selling it to... We hear all those things happening all the time. I think the danger in this one is the fact that this appears to be somebody who is a judge in his own, a judge sitting on his own case. Okay, that's where the danger is because of his influence over the matters that go before him. Look, I do think that I share the sympathies of those who say the suspension is not enough. Why should the board be there? The president has the power to dismiss the board. The president has the power to dismiss the board, and the argument cannot be made that the man doesn't control the board because the man is part of the board in the first place.
But,
and I know Godfrey Dami is part of the board, also. Why can't we just, why can't we just put the board aside? That shows that we are ready, we are angry, and we cannot tolerate this. If we are not careful, we feed into the perception that when things happen like that, we quickly do something to show face that we are trying to do something, but in reality, we are not interested in fighting it. I am thinking that in our part of the world, or maybe Ghana, once you appoint the public officer, no underground, check is done on you. Because all the scandals that appear to have been uncovered over the years are not often by our state agencies. The CID, the BNI, National Security. What else do they do apart from going around and showing their cards? In other places, you could be in office, but there's a routine check on what you are doing. Look, if our systems were working enough, the system would have detected that this person is connected to this business.
Very well.
And they would have informed and advised the president.
Especially when they're using a TIN number.
Exactly, and won't be embarrassed in the manner that is being. What do they do behind?
I'll be back. This is a press conference on Citi TV. We are having a discussion tonight of the big stories of the week as the week ends tonight. When we return, we hear from Dr. Papakwesi Ndum and other owners of microfinance institutions and finance houses as they have been challenging the cleanup exercise by the Central Bank, BOG. You're welcome back. Now, before the week ended last week, the Central Bank issued a statement in which they listed a number of companies that were going down, finance houses and microfinance institutions. So it gave them the weekend to think, and then when the week started, they started reacting. Dr. Papakwesi Ndum of Group Indum spoke.
What I need to say to you is that we may be down, but we're not out. We may have been given a pause, but it is not a stop. It is important for us to understand that we will use that spirit and not become timid in the face of really some untruths. And I want to examine and talk to you about one particular one. The one that says that we have transferred more than $60 million of customer funds to International Business Solutions, IBS, of the US with no documentation. How possible could that be? And I want to ask some of you, when Kwame Asumini, when he is sitting in a 4x4 vehicle, where did that vehicle come from? Who brought that vehicle down to Ghana? It was the same IBS. The computer that Isa Adam works with, where did it come from? It was brought down to Ghana by IBS.
So that's Dr. Papakwesi Ndum, CEO of Group Indum. He's saying that they're down, but they're not out. Larry, are they not really out? I mean, you were degraded from a bank to a Susu company, and now you are nothing. That one too has been taken away from you. He's saying that he's down, but he's not out.
I think as journalists, we should always go behind the news, behind what government presents us. Because wherever there's money, okay, and wherever there's power, there's subject for an abuse. Okay. There's something I'm picking up, which is to the effect that Papakwesi Ndum has issues with the way government is treating his financial institution. Kwame Dufo also has, issues. But in between that, the two of them seem to be saying the same thing. Government owes us. Then you have, government agents coming, oh, we don't owe you. Then the story, drags on to a point that now we are hearing the finance minister saying that, listen, we owe Indum. Then you have a deputy minister of information coming to say that even if government pays that money, there's no way that Indum's company could come back.
That's what the BOG said, 30 million.
You get it? So then you have, I mean, what exactly has been, what exactly are the issues? What exactly are the issues? Is it just that, okay, we want to be seen as, tidying up and setting, loose ends and so on? And in that, I mean, while doing so, we won't listen to anybody. Because people are complaining. I've also heard Dr. Amwa, what's his name? The one in charge of... yeah, exactly. Also having issues. I mean, these are just the prominent ones.
He's also old.
Exactly. These are just the prominent ones. How about those who don't have the same leverage as, media leverage like them? Could they also have issues? Maybe, Citi TV should, would want to go behind and start digging up some of these things because, I mean, abuses could occur. And there are things that, some of us are picking. And maybe in the coming days, the Herald will be touching on some of them. It's not looking good at all.
Kwame?
Look, I'll give you 2 examples. And these are matters that you can't disagree. That's fine. Look, 2 examples. Indum has consistently said that you have accepted to owing me some amount.
Yeah.
Beyond that, you agree that you are owing some contractors who borrowed monies from me. Okay, so there are 2 strands of his argument.
Okay.
You agree that you are owing me, you haven't paid. You haven't paid the contractors that owe me.
Direct and indirect.
Okay, so and then you are saying that even if we pay you, it's not enough. Have you paid me in the first place? You have not paid me, you have not paid the contractors, yet you are asking me to pay my customers. It doesn't make sense.
Again, at what stage did they notice that the man had transferred some monies outside?
It doesn't make sense at all. Look, you haven't paid him, you haven't paid him a penny, you haven't paid the contractors who in turn can pay him to enable him to be solvent. But you are willing to run down and collapse a business that is 25 years old.
With the employees.
What kind of sense is that? Again, in the case of UniCredit, they have said that the bank, Unibank, they had invested legitimately in Unibank. There are 54 million cedis sitting in the Unibank account. You have sat on it because you said you are investigating it. So UniCredit has 54 million cedis sitting at Unibank. That money is still sitting there because you have garnished it. You said you will not allow them to take money out of it. And yet you are expecting them to be able to deliver to their customers. How is that possible? And then you are declaring them insolvent because they are not able to service. When you know that you are sitting on this amount.
So government is directly, indirectly
I am thinking that
problems,
it is not just, you see, running a state, it's not like running a personal business. There are so many factors you need to take into consideration. For me, collapsing a Ghanaian indigenous business that is 25 years and above because you are cleaning the sector, I think there should be a certain way to ensure that we encourage indigenous business people to continue to do business.
If an indigenous business is dirty, you should watch it because it's dirty and say you're not touching it?
No, you shouldn't. But don't add to the troubles of the company. And I share with the comments that Kwame has just made. I've always argued that, look, it's not enough saying you don't owe me, or even if I give you the money, it will not help you in any way. Give me the money and watch me deal with the problem. If I do not succeed, then you can close in on me. But having said that, I think the Parkwesi Indum and his group, they are not also dealing with the customers fairly, not at all. You don't expect customers to mass up at your offices. In some of the instances, we are told that some of them have had to fill forms 10 times, 11 times, 12 times, 20 times. For what reason? When you know that the form you have given to the person to fill, the person is filling it for absolutely nothing. So why not communicate directly and promptly to the people what the real challenges are? Let the people get to understand what the problem you are going through is.
There's something called anger management.
No, but you are rather even aggravating it. You are aggravating it. The company, for me, is not helping the situation at all. If you see those who mess up and they are giving forms to fill, at the end of the day, they are there till nightfall. Nothing happens.
Thank you. I'm sure there's something we'll be talking about for the next week as well. But that's how we end tonight's edition of Press Conference, which came to you from Citi TV studios at Adabraka in Accra. My name is Umaru Sanda Amadu. I sat in for Duke Mensah Opoku. Guest tonight, Kwame Danso Acheampong from my left here, from StarFMOnline.com. Sixtus Dong Ullo is with Citi Newsroom here in Adabraka in Accra. And Larry Alans Dogbe is with the Herald. The press conference returns next Sunday. Do make a date.